Hi, I'm Dr. Sina Gahzel. Welcome to Apolline Dental. Let me show you to our 3D printing setup. As you can see, it's quite a small setup, doesn't take up a huge amount of space. We've got some storage which allows us to hold the various components, and we're now able to do a large majority of our work in-house in a timely fashion. Join me and my team as we walk you through our experience with the Sprintray printer. Today we'll be going through how we've introduced the Sprintray system and how we're now using this printer on a day-to-day basis to improve our workflow, increase our overall revenue in the practice, and just make our patient experience a lot better. So on a day-to-day basis, we're using the printer to make models, to create our whitening trays, our retainers. We're now using the printer to make temporary crowns, temporary bridges, and I feel that this is only the beginning. With this printer, with the speed at which it prints, the opportunities really are quite endless. I feel as the technology is moving on, these printers are going to become more and more important within day-to-day practice, particularly in practices that are doing high amounts of general dentistry, lots of orthodontic treatment and cosmetic treatments, and for me, it's been an absolute game changer. So the Sprintray printer has allowed us to streamline our appointments. We can now scan a patient at their assessment, and if they want to have whitening trays, we can actually turn those whitening trays around on the same day. So with a practice like ours, people travel from far and wide, and often they don't want to return for a second appointment to come in to have their whitening trays fitted. And this allows us to do all our treatments on the same day, improving our patient workflow and actually improving satisfaction. We've actually found that it's massively improved patient uptake with treatment, and those models are only costing us a few pounds to print, so it's very, very efficient, very quick, and it's massively improved our patient uptake of treatment. In terms of profitability of the machine, I think where it's really improved is we're able to make our Essex retainers, we're able to make a number of temporary prosthesis in-house, where we used to outsource these to the laboratory. So we can now actually print a temporary crown or a temporary bridge for just a few pounds, which for us has been absolutely game-changing. And the patients are very receptive to that because it's all done on the same day. I can tell you about a case where the printer was extremely helpful. So it was late one Friday evening and I had a patient who actually messaged my Instagram to say that she'd had an accident, she'd had an injury. I went online, I had a look, and she'd had a previous scan which was done at her initial appointment at the practice. We very quickly, remotely printed her model and were able to make her an Essex retainer with a temporary prosthesis, and that was actually sent to her on the same evening. So for a young girl walking around with a missing front tooth, I think this was an absolutely invaluable tool, and for her it was an amazing, amazing opportunity to come on board and actually continue the rest of her treatment. She subsequently had a dental implant placed over a period of maybe 6 months or so, but the printer was used numerous times to create a new Essex retainer without her having to come in. And like I say, for a patient who's in their 20s, you really can't put a price on that. So the reason we chose a Sprintray printer is because Sprintray has its own design software. So what we're able to do is send over our digital file to Sprintray, who within 2 or 3 days will design our Michigan splint or design our temporary crown and bridge, send that back to us and we can 3D print it. It's seamless, it's quick, and I think that's what makes Sprintray a cut above a lot of the other printers that are on the market at the moment. So more recently we purchased another dental practice, and what we found was that we didn't really have the space to buy a new printer. But with it being at our old dental practice, we could send over the scans via the cloud and very seamlessly print our models and have them taken over from one site to the next. So not only do I think it's beneficial to people who have one practice, I think it becomes even more useful when you have 2 or 3 practices because of the cloud-based options.
Hi, I'm Dr. Martin Katz. I've been practicing in London for over 40 years now. I had a practice in Hampstead that I opened in 1999 and sold last year. I've stayed on as an associate. It's been an absolute pleasure working with the new principals, and they've introduced some technology into the practice, a scanner, 3D printing, and well, it's worked really well. I'm really engaged with it and I'm enjoying it. It made life a lot easier for me and created a lot more treatment options. I started scanning patients at examination so that I had a record of what their teeth looked like. And then I realized when I put the patient up, it gave me the option to, if they needed a Michigan splint or they needed whitening trays or Essex retainers, there was no more clinical work to be done. We could just order it and I could have it back at the practice within 2 or 3 days. I also found the product, the appliances, a lot more accurate. I wasn't relying on technicians' skill or a technician having a bad day. The undercuts were all engaged correctly. I wasn't having to adjust my appliances when I fitted them. So it improved my workflow, it improved my patient satisfaction and my productivity immensely. Was I skeptical about 3D printing and scanning when I started? A little. I thought it was increased work. I had a lot of success taking rubber impressions. I could do them quickly, efficiently. I had a very good technician and my outcomes were very good. And I was quick. There's a learning curve when it comes to using a 3D scanner and subsequently the printing that goes on. But yes, there was skepticism, but as soon as I started using it, it quickly went away. I realized that everything was more accurate, it was quicker, and I had a record of what may go wrong. I've had very few problems. I managed to communicate with the technician operating the 3D printer very successfully. I found it much easier to ask for the specific properties of a Michigan or an Essex splint or whitening tray. I got much better outcomes. Take rubber impressions, an upper and a lower, and I was making laminated Michigan splints with hard outer acrylic and a softer lining, which they're not that robust. They generally start delaminating after a couple of years, or if a patient's rough with them, they damage them. So I was a little skeptical at first about switching to just hard acrylic splints. But using the scanner, not the rubber impressions, and liaising with the technician printing the resin, the Michigan splint, I quickly managed to find a solution where I didn't need to ease my splints at all, because we're not relying on a technician to block out undercuts. It's not an analog process. The algorithm engages the undercuts where it's supposed to. And you can also order to have clearance. You can choose where you want clearance if you don't want to engage an undercut on a specific tooth or teeth. And I don't have to adjust my Michigans when I fit them. They are actually more slimline, they're more robust, and patients definitely prefer them. Don't forget, a lot of them that I'm making are remakes from old style Michigans, and patients definitely prefer them. And it's working. I think other associates should start scanning. It's quite feasible to take rubber impressions and then the technician will scan the model and subsequently 3D print, but you're missing a trick. You may as well scan first. It'll print much more quickly then, and the models are definitely nicer to deal with. They present nicely to the patients. Some patients like to take them away. Yeah, I would definitely advise people to get into 3D printing in terms of making the appliance they're looking for. They come back more quickly, they're more accurate, and the patients prefer them.
So my name is Janesh. I've been a dentist for around 9 years. My background is working within the hospital, community dentistry and prison dentistry. I've now transitioned as an associate now for tailoring my work to a more restorative and cosmetic. So working in a dental practice where we've adapted new technologies, digital dentistry, it makes our workflow a lot more smoother and efficient. We're able to use a scanner to show patients their mouth, discuss their case, show them different treatment options, and they can visually see what's going on. Having the printer available makes our workflow a lot more efficient. So we're able to print models to be able to print, to make whitening trays, retainers, discuss cases with our colleagues as well, and working together a team to be able to provide a much more smooth outcome for our patients. So as an associate working across multiple practices, it's massively improved my team working ability. So we're able to print 3D models within the space of around 30 minutes, and that means I'm able to use those models to speak to my colleagues at lunchtime, speak to the technician, and essentially provide a much better outcome for our patients.